Good morning, Rose. My name is Deb Nielsen and I'm here to help and guide you through preparing your mother's funeral service. Would you like a glass of water, tea or coffee before we begin?
I think, water would be good.
Great. Now, John Adams, the funeral director, has told me a little bit about you and when the funeral service for Mildred is. But I just want to reinforce what John has told you, and that is it's your mother's funeral and that it could not be in better hands. And even though you have discussed details about the funeral time and date, I will be helping you to organise and prepare the ceremonies that you and your family want for Mildred. Also, there is no fee for my service, as it is included in the funeral costs that John discussed with you, and I will invoice John.
Thank you. It's been quite a traumatic time for the family. Even though she was quite old in her 90s, it was still quite a shock. We all thought she'd outlive us. She was very lucid at the end. She was talking as if she would see us the next day. Mum lived a full and long life, but quite frankly, I don't know where to start.
Well, that's why I'm here, and I will guide you through the procedures of the services by asking a few questions. But before we begin, are there any questions or issues that you would like to discuss first of all?
Well, no, I think if we go through this step by step, as I've never had to do this kind of thing before.
Okay, firstly I will ask you some questions relating to your mother and the family, and if you know what you want to some degree, well then we can put that in place and work from there. If you require, I can then write the funeral service, which will include an introduction, the eulogy that someone from the family or I can deliver for you, readings from family members or friends. Then we usually have the reflection, and then we conclude. You can pick the readings or use your own if you like, and tell us if you want music to be played and or if you would like a slideshow. So, are you ready to start? And please just take your time, and if you don't know the answers, then you can always get back to me via email or phone me so I can organise a service to suit yours and your family's wishes. Now, do you mind if I tape your conversation? As it'll be help to me so I can remember aspects of our conversation, so I can get a better view of what to write in the eulogy and for our ceremony planning.
That'd be fantastic. Like I said, I've never done this before, so that'd be awesome.
Okay, so what was your mum's full name and where and when was she born?
Mum's name was Mildred Sinclair Young, and Sinclair was her maiden name. All the girls in the family were given that middle name, and she was born in Greta, New South Wales in 1912.
Oh, Greta, is that near Cessnock, just outside of the Hunter Valley? It's near Maitland, I think?
Yes, it is. It's Ned Kelly country, actually.
Oh, great. That's a lovely part of the Hunter Valley. What was your father's name, and is he still alive?
My dad's name, Dad was Colin Young, but he passed away 10 years ago with cancer. So the death of Dad left an emptiness in Mum's life. She was quite lonely for the last part.
So what was your dad like?
Well, Dad was very well educated and liked to read a lot. He was always reading, and he would often read to us. He encouraged us to read as children, and because of that we loved it, and we would read everything we could get our hands on. Dad would talk about the characters in the book, and he read, and as he read, and he would talk of their principles and values. He believed greatly in human values and principles, and he passed this on to my sisters and myself.
Oh, his passing must have been very tough and difficult for Mildred.
was really difficult. Dad always said that Mum didn't have much of a formal education, but she was the smartest woman he'd had ever known. Mum was smart about life, not so much school stuff, grounded and very kind and generous. She volunteered at Salvation Army and Widows Association. She was always cooking and served meals for the homeless sometimes. Mum felt deep emptiness after Dad passed away, but she found comfort in doing these kind of things for other people. She would often fill her days reading and serving others less fortunate than her.
What did your father and mother do for a living?
Well, Dad was in the army as an officer, and he did that for most of his working life. Mum was a housewife, stay at home, look after the kids. It was hard for Mum to get a job, as Dad would always be away from home, and she had 3 crazy girls to look after and bring up on her own.
Did Mildred have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, her older brother Frank was in the army also. He was killed in World War I. Mum didn't really know Frank very well, and her other brother Jim and sister Denise, they both passed away also. Frank died when Mum was quite young.
Okay. How did Mildred pass?
Well, it was a bit the same as Dad. She also died of cancer, but luckily she passed away quite quickly after being diagnosed. For me, I'm very thankful, as I would not have wanted Mum to suffer and be in any lasting pain for years and years, so it was a blessing.
Oh, still very sad to hear.
Yeah, it's not the way to go.
How was Mildred's early life as a young woman?
Yeah, well, we need, I suppose, to talk about her life. She did the limited schooling, which was normal for girls back then. She would say her family lived frugally, off the land, during World War I. During the years in the Great Depression, Mildred helped her mum with home duties and as a home help for some of our wealthier neighbours. This, I think, formed her loyalty for others and her belief that no one is greater than the other attitude as long as you help people and don't rubbish them. I think she also learnt to cook then. She was a fabulous cook. She loved to entertain. She was getting neighbours over for gatherings and a cuppa, and she could whip up a really mean batch of scones. She had heaps of recipes, and she was always sharing them with our sisters, my sisters, the girls, cousins, all the friends.
That must have been tough for her growing up, as only being a teenager in those times.
Yeah.
How would you describe your mum?
Well, Mildred was a happy, smart woman, but she didn't suffer fools lightly. Because Mum had had such a hard life as a young girl growing up, this gave her lots of determination and spirit to show us all how important it is to look out for each other and stand up for what we believe. So as long as it didn't hurt other people, especially the ones you loved, she drilled that into our brains from an early age.
What is your favourite memory of your mum?
Well, she loved reading, especially thrillers. She loved music, and she loved watching Home and Away with her grandchildren, especially the 4 grandsons. Boys were into Home and Away. Smith, David, Ronnie and Evan. The quality that probably stands out for her family was her unselfishness. Mum was always there to read the kids a story, and Mum and Dad, they both believed in reading is being an important part of a child's education. I think they're discovering this now in schools. This trait She instilled in my sisters and I, and even the grandchildren, Evan is a prolific reader. So thinking about it, yeah, I think a lot of the reading was important and the sharing knowledge. Also the way that her and her dad devoted their time for each other.
I totally agree that, reading is so unbelievably important. And hopefully the educators out there are, getting that. Your mum and dad sound really devoted to you children. Did you have a nickname for her or any terms of endearment?
Well, strangely, not really. We just called her Mum. And the grandkids, we decided Nanny was her special name. The other one was Granny, but she was Nanny. Sometimes we would call her funny names just to get a response. But Mum was too clever to fall for that. She would just say, "Oh, go on," as if she and pretend she hadn't heard it.
Clever woman, your mother. Did she have a pet name or nickname for you or your sisters?
When we were, when we were bad, it was always our full first name. But if we were good, she'd call us darling. The grandkids and great-grandkids could do nothing wrong. It was always just our fault if they got into trouble. She called them sweethearts most of the time. Mum was a disciplinarian in our house when I was growing up because Dad was away so much at work. But she's different as a grandma, as a nan.
Sounds like most mothers of that time. Is there any particular lesson that you've learnt from your mum?
Well, she took everything in her stride. Very tolerant. And she wasn't narrow-minded. She would try to see other people's point of view. She respected the opinions and views of everyone and didn't worry about their imperfections. She took into account their feelings. But she also had an inbuilt country radar for fools, and she would call a spade a spade. She taught all of us girls to cook. She had some pretty great recipes. As I said before, she taught us to value others and not to think we were better than anyone else.
What do you think that your mum valued most in life?
I think being from that generation as a homemaker, she really, and a wife and a mother and a grandmother, she just valued kindness and tolerance. But above everything else, she was a family person, so she valued family.
What words would you use to describe her?
Well, she had a kind of
Describe her character.
Yeah, gentle sort of nature, but underneath that was a really strong person. Like, you would never know it, but she was definitely no pushover.
How would you describe Mildred's personality?
Sort of keep coming up with the same sort of picture all the time. She's extremely tolerant and broad-minded. She had a great smile, but she still had this thing where she just didn't suffer fools lightly. She would sort of be thinking, she didn't try to make it too obvious, but I knew she didn't suffer fools at all.
So she was, about no nonsense.
Yeah, totally. But still fair, very fair person.
How did she meet your your father?
In the early years, the Second World War, Mum met Dad. He was in his uniform, a soldier. They met through a mutual friend, and then wasn't long before they got married, I think in 1942, and they settled in Newcastle. I recall Dad saying once or twice she was the best looker in the district, but then of course he had a one-eyed view.
What's a particular time then that you can recall that the deceased was especially happy? What would make
Yeah.
her day?
Look, strangely, she was addicted to home and away, and the grandkids couldn't wait to get home from school, and they'd race in and sit with her, and they especially enjoyed she especially enjoyed their company. You know, that's Evan and David and Ron and William. They'd sit there and laugh at all stuff or cry at stupid home and away. But the other thing she didn't want, she liked the whiskey now and again, but occasionally she'd slip one in when they were watching Home and Away on TV, but the kids didn't mind.
Excellent. Was there a time that she was embarrassed, or a moment that you can remember?
Look, I'm not sure. I'm sure that one of the others would know, so I'll have to get back to you on that. But one of my sisters, I think she has told me about some time when Mum did something ridiculous. So
Okay, yes, just get back to that
yeah.
for us. What was her laugh like? Can you describe that for me?
Oh, it was a laugh that made you feel happy. It was very contagious, but it was a bit loud. Like, it's a bit embarrassing at times. But yeah, she made everyone around it feel happy.
What was she like keeping the time? Was she, very punctual or chronically late? Or...
Yeah, she's a bit different to me. She's always on time. She hated it being late. She was probably always a few minutes early, especially if it was something she had planned. She'd be a 10-minute early person.
Do you have any funny stories about, the time that she spent with you, or, the grandchildren or the great-grandchildren?
Once she was telling a story to one of the grandchildren, but she got their names all mucked up. She had a few of the kids there, and she got their names all mucked up. And the more she tried to fix the mistake, that the children they just got more confused and ended up telling her to be quiet while she was ahead, which then everyone was just busting into laughter because she was completely bamboozled by the whole thing. Yeah.
So her relationship with the grandchildren was obviously a great one.
Yeah, she probably had more time to enjoy them, unlike when Dad was away. It was good. She enjoyed the company of her grandchildren, and she'd sit back and talk to them for hours. And she always wanted to know what they were up to and send them gifts or inspiration for school stuff. It was a bit different with us because she was the father and the mother for a lot of the time. So
Yeah. Was there any particular favourite story that she would love to retell to you guys or to the grandchildren?
She loved the fact that her father always took time to read to her. So she'd often buy books for her to read as a teenager, and he was always interested in her education and what she was doing.
Right, okay. Like any stories that she used to talk about, like when she was getting married, or on becoming a parent or a grandmother that you can remember?
Yeah. I have to think. Obviously, getting married was the beginning of a very long, loving relationship. So she always said it was one of the best days of her life. So I suppose most people would be thinking that. And then having babies, becoming a parent. She often told us that our births were the best part of her life. Of course, Mum and Dad were dedicated to our welfare and education. And they both believed in kids having a good education. Stories she'd talk about, she used to talk about learning to drive. She was pretty bad at learning to drive. I think in one of the driving lessons she might have hit a stop sign, but Dad said, never mind, we'll just go to a different driving company.
Oh, excellent. Did Mildred discuss big decisions that her and your dad would made that impacted on their life?
Probably only that Mum and Dad settled in Newcastle. Dad wanted to keep going in the army as an officer after they were married, so that meant travelling a bit. Then when they bought their house, that was their home for life. But so I suppose big decisions. Yeah, what he wanted to do work-wise, and he did let her have a big say in which house they bought. Yeah.
Oh, great. And yes, well, there would have been, she did live quite a long life, Mildred, and so there would have been some, huge events, in that lifetime.
Yeah.
So any changes, that affected her in a big way as well? Other than, like moving to Newcastle and
I'll have to.
having your dad away.
She didn't really tell me a lot, but I think one of my sisters. I can talk to one of my sisters and get back to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, or even you could talk, to perhaps one of her friends.
Yeah.
Or somebody that knew her, a neighbour, that knew her very well.
Yeah.
And
she didn't like to show that she was weak in any way, so that's why it's hard to figure that one out.
yes, okay. If you knew your mum could drop by and visit tomorrow, what would your ideal day spent with her look like? Or when you did visit her, what would you do together?
Yeah. Look, she's just a very ordinary person that just enjoyed doing the basic stuff. So we just talk and discuss how my day was going. She was always interested in hearing about how my family was going and how my sisters and their kids' lives were. We might do a little bit of cooking, cook a new recipe and have a cuppa while we're doing it. I enjoyed being the guinea pig for some of the recipes because Mum was such a great cook. It's going to be, something we'll miss. She's really knowledgeable in that area. Yeah, but just getting back to the point, we just do something that we did every day. Like, we didn't want to travel the world, we just wanted to hang out together, sort of thing.
Yeah. You did mention that, her family was so important to her, so I'm sure she took great joy in just having you pop by for a cuppa.
Yeah, just the simple things.
Yeah. What was her favourite colour?
Strangely enough, red. But she liked yellow, such a happy colour. But she was also a big rose gardener, so anything like in the reds or the yellows she really liked. Yeah.
And did she have a favourite drink?
Well, I mentioned before she's a bit of a sneaky drinker. She loved a glass of whiskey, but she wasn't like an avid drinker, but she just loved her whiskey. Yeah, I would say. Definitely whiskey.
Definitely
Scotch
whiskey? Okay. And her favourite flower was the roses?
Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah, roses. Yeah, she learned everything she could about the roses, how to fertilise them. She went off to classes and to figure out best ways of growing things. She had plenty of these in her garden, and we used to pick them sometimes. She'd get really angry because she'd be trying to nurture some rose and then one of us would have picked it. I think during a gardening time it was a good time for her to reflect on life and the family and just chill out a bit. Yeah, definitely she's a big gardener.
excellent. Yeah, it's so nice, and you just de-stress when you get out there. And
Yeah.
I think putting your hands in that soil has such an
Yeah.
effect on us, a
Fulfilling.
calming,
Yeah.
fulfilling effect.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
What type of music did Mildred listen to?
Well, she's in the war years there, so she had a couple of favourites. I'll Be Seeing You by Vera Lynn.
Yes, an old
Nice.
favourite.
Yeah, she loved Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World.
Excellent, yes.
And then Unforgettables, just always been one of the family favourites, and Mum put us on to that, Nat King Cole. So yeah, they were definitely songs that she loved. We would sort of like to have in the ceremony, them somewhere in the ceremony. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, of course, I can include those songs in the service. That'd be no problem. Like we might even just, have
Yeah.
I'll be seeing you
Yeah.
as the guests come in to the
Yeah.
funeral.
Yeah,
in the chapel.
Yeah, like, do we do a slideshow at any stage? Like, will we link it up with that, or how does that work?
Yes, yeah, we can link that up. You can have a slideshow, and quite often, you people do a slideshow and have the coffin being carried out, because you're having a chapel service, aren't
Yes,
you?
yeah.
And then you're going to the graveside.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 So, I would have the music.
Mhm.
All of these 3 songs, or 2 of these songs would be terrific. I'll Be Seeing You by Vera Lynn, as the congregation, as your guests come in and
Yeah.
sit down,
Yeah.
and then perhaps What a Wonderful World, could even accompany the slideshow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That'd be perfect. I could get one of the grandkids to work that into a slideshow. I'll collect a heap of photos and see if we can come up with something.
Yes, and watch, and then you could always have Unforgettable by Nat King Cole at the graveside.
Yeah.
As we're
Yeah.
lowering,
Yeah.
yes, the coffin
Yeah.
into
It's
the
sad,
graveside.
but yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Yes.
But pretty teary, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about reading? You said that she loved to read, and you're all avid readers. So, what kind of books would she read?
Yeah, if we're talking about her life, she definitely loved to read, but especially crime and thrillers. She absolutely adored Matthew Riley, an Australian author, and he's got a few books. He's got, I don't know if you've read it, Scarecrow and Jack West Jr., but yeah, definitely Matthew Riley.
So she was into adventure and action
Yeah.
and crime.
Yep.
Me too.
Yeah.
Was there a piece of clothing or something that she found wore that would show her characteristics as well?
Well, we mentioned that she liked the colours, red and yellow. So if we can find an outfit that's got red and yellow in it, Mum was loved to wear those kind of colours. Sure, we could find something. She especially liked Christmas time, as the outfits all had the red, and but she also liked that time of year to be with the family and have gatherings together. But yeah, clothing, I could talk to my sisters and see if there's something there that we could find with her favourite colours. Yeah.
Did she have a signature saying or something that she would always say?
Yeah, she was saying, yes, live your life like it's your last day on earth. Always saying that. Don't waste a day because it could be your last. So, yeah, if we say something along the lines of live your life like it was the last day on earth, that would be really meaningful.
Great saying. Yeah, so obviously being your mum, but how did she, impact upon your life?
Look, she just taught us to lead a good, healthy life and just treat others the way we wanted to be treated, and try to respect everyone's opinions and their feelings. Yeah, definitely open-minded sort of person that, yeah, it's been good for us because we've tried to mimic that.
Okay, so she obviously lived for others and not herself, and she was always there to help others, and you know, her family
Yeah,
and friends and
definitely.
everything to her, as I said before.
Yeah.
And did she volunteer anywhere?
Yeah, she was always volunteering. She was down at the Lifeline shop. I think she did Meals on Wheels a couple of times. Yeah, she just was always trying to be tolerant of others and help them get ahead if she could.
So just for me to,
Yeah.
you know, confirm in my mind,
Yeah.
you're going to have a chapel service first of all, and then another short service at the graveside as your mum wanted to be buried. And the burial service is going to be at Maitland
Yeah.
Cemetery straight
Yeah,
after the
yeah,
chapel
yeah,
service.
yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, Mum wanted, yes, we would like a chapel service, and then
The burial
short
service.
at the graveside. Definitely, the burial service would, yeah, like you mentioned, Maitland ceremony. Yeah.
So do you know of any exact details that your mum, you know, wanted at
Yeah,
the
she used,
funeral
I
and
used,
the
yeah, she
service?
was always saying, oh, when I die and we be there, oh, shut up, Mum. But she said, I don't want any fuss, I want a no fuss ceremony, I just want the family to read a few poems. She said she did want to wake so that everyone could get together and have one last whiskey for her.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yes. So is someone going to speak or do the eulogy for you? Or would you want me to
I think it's going to
deliver that as well?
Yeah, it's going to be too difficult because we'll all just be too emotional. So we're sort of
It
hoping
can be
that you
very
can do it.
emotional to get up and speak.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could deliver the eulogy. There might be one or two that want to do some readings at the
Okay,
ceremony.
great.
Yeah.
So who would be doing the readings?
I think all of my sisters have said, yeah, they'd like to do a small reading each, so we all sort of have a bit of a turn. And then Evan, the eldest grandson, he'd like to do a reading too. Do you have any that we could look at?
Certainly do. In here, there's quite a few readings and some poems
Right.
that you might like to put together.
Right.
And you might find even there's some quite old ones in there, you know, some of the ones that Mildred may have liked herself,
Yeah.
or spoken about, or some that you recognise.
Oh, this will take me a few minutes to have a bit of a think about this. Just give me a second, I'll just
Okay, no problem.
flick through. What a good selection here.
You can always take that with you if you
Yeah.
like, and then we can come back to it.
to that.
Yeah. So you did say that we're going to include music.
Yeah.
So you wish to have 3 of her favourite songs played?
Yes, definitely
Right.
those three.
Okay, so I've got that.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing you by Vera Lynn and What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll get together with my sisters and let them have a look through this as well, if that's okay. And then between us, we can each pick one.
That'd be
good.
great.
Okay, get back to you on that.
Do you want to display any, you know, like a symbol or favourite items, like a portrait of Mildred or at the chapel service?
Yeah, maybe we might just put a photo there. We're hoping to get this slideshow so we can get different photos throughout her life. But yeah, definitely be good to have one that we could. Like, do you do the one on the card when the
Yes, that's
Yeah.
all handled by the funeral service.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the director
Yep.
and the admin.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
there. So what about at the burial ceremony? What are you thinking there for the service?
Yeah.
We'll be playing some music and would you like some roses there or
Yeah, well,
a bit of a ritual?
yeah, we might have one lot of flowers for the church and another lot for the. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Do you guys, you organise all the flowers and everything?
Yes, so
Yeah,
the funeral
yeah.
director
Okay.
will be doing that as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a suggestion, sometimes, her roses were her favourite. You might like to
Yes.
pick some
Yes.
from the garden and
Yeah.
lay them on
Yeah.
the coffin
Yeah.
before we, lower
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's just, a suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the grandkids could just have one single rose each at the funeral at at the burial site, just to lay down.
Yes.
That might be good.
Yeah. Okay, so just to confirm in my mind and in yours what's going to happen, apart from the readings, which you're going to choose,
Yeah.
and we've spoken about the songs.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with one of Mildred's favourite songs,
Yeah.
played at the start of the service. Then we'll have a welcome or introduction delivered by myself, and a eulogy delivered by myself on behalf of the family. And then we'll have a reflection of Mildred whilst listening to another of her favourite songs.
Yeah.
And then you'd like to
Yeah.
do a video.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's the
That'd be-
order
Yep.
that will of the for the
Yep.
service.
Yep.
And
Yeah. And then at the burial service,
then we'll be carrying
Yeah.
Mildred out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where maybe we can get some roses scattered from her garden, like you said.
Oh, right, at the burial service?
Yeah, that'd be good. And the readings, yeah, maybe we could have a
Yes.
song when the coffin's lowered into the ground.
Yes, excellent. And then we'll have a couple of readings, like,
Yep.
would you like a reading at the burial?
Yes, please. Look,
Okay.
just one or two.
So who's going to design the video for you?
My sisters and I were going to get together and try and get all the photos and put it to one of the songs. That'd be take us. How long do we have? Like a week? Is it? How long before we have to have this ready? Do you know roughly? 2
well,
days, 3 days?
No, have you been given a date by the funeral director?
Oh, they mentioned next week sometime. So
All right, yes. Well,
Yeah.
if I were you, I'd get started on that
Yeah.
as soon as, possible.
Okay.
But I can always check in with you if you
Yeah.
haven't, made headway with it,
All right. Yep.
then we can cancel it and, go to plan B.
Yep.
So are you going to have a wake? And if so,
Yes, we're
where?
going to definitely have a wake, and we thought we'd have it at the Exchange Hotel in Cessnock.
Right.
Yep. So
And I can actually announce that,
That,
everybody is, welcome to
Yeah.
join us after the burial service
Yeah.
at the Exchange Hotel in Cessnock.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, so thanks, Rose. I believe I've got enough to get started, and I will give you a call and let you know if I need anything else. But if you could also,
Check with my sisters on a
check
few
about
of those
the
things.
readings, and if they're happy with the
Yeah,
service
there was
as
a
well.
Couple of things we had to remember. Yeah.
And if that's all, well then I'll get started on a draft, and I'll get that to you
Yeah.
as soon as possible
Okay.
for you and
Yes.
your family to approve.
Yeah. Perfect.
So just to confirm that the funeral's in 5 days, that's what I've got written down,
Right.
and it's on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I just take your phone number as well
Yeah,
so I can
yes.
contact you?
My contact number is 0433 154 803. Thanks, you've just been really helpful because we've all been terrified of how to go about this. So yeah, it's going to make it a lot better for us.
My pleasure.
Okay.
And thank you once again for entrusting me to prepare the service that your mum deserves.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Rose.
Okay.